After rewatching the Death Note 2017 adaptation, I've been thinking, what if this movie succeeded? People would certainly have a better outlook on anime live actions, and their reputation would be a lot less tainted. It's funny because when you think of anime to make a live action movie out of, that wouldn't be too hard to produce, Death Note is one of the most obvious candidates that come to mind. It's literally every crime show ever made with one supernatural element thrown in. But that element isn't even that abundant in the story's concept. The drive of Death Note and what hooks you in is the brainpower of the genius main character as he battles against an entire police force that is hell-bent on chasing him until he is caught. The show's intellectual prowess as these two rivals clash in an ultimate test of wits. This is something that is easily attainable through live-action cinema. In fact, it's already been done before many times. Some of my favorite examples of this are movies from Christopher Nolan. When he focuses a movie structure around two characters and the rivalry between them, it is not only gripping with excitement, but nothing short of powerful. We see this most notably in movies such as The Prestige, Insomnia, and of course, The Dark Knight. Nolan has such a phenomenal way of building tension between characters. By the time the film reaches its conclusive act, I'd bet that almost anything could happen and I'd still feel rewarded because of how well the buildup is in these films. Luckily, the endings don't need a crutch to lean on, but Death Note, however, does. And if it were up to me, I'd have easily chosen Nolan to direct the project with a more concise focus on a smarter, more intelligent cast of main characters. Adam Wingard wasn't the first choice I'd pick, but like I've said before, there aren't many directors in the industry that understand anime, and it seemed like they really wanted to do something new with this adaptation, which is why most people hated it. The only other movie I've seen from Adam is VHS, which wasn't great. The only good thing I could say about that movie is maybe the somewhat unique direction for its time, and like one or two of the short stories was done well, but all in all, it was a pretty lame movie. Again, wouldn't have been my first choice to direct a Death Note movie, but hey, it could have been worse. Not only would Nolan have been my go-to because of his expertise with handling these sorts of rivalry movies, but these are actually my favorite kinds of movies to watch. Character versus character films are the most intriguing and engaging motion pictures to consume. When a story is focused on two characters, not only does it make the protagonist and antagonist interesting enough to care for them both, it also tightens the story, making it more focused, leaving little room for error when it comes to writing. Not saying the story becomes automatically great when it's in this structure, but when it's done right, it becomes so much more than just a good movie. These kinds of stories, when done right, transcend whatever art form they're created in, and that's why we end up getting adaptations of said stories. People want to see these stories in other kinds of media, and even more so, people want to make money off of it. That's why we end up getting movies like Death Note. So how can we fix this film? How can we make it good? Well, considering what we've already been given, here's how I'd go about it. I think the movie should take either one of three routes. Being the length that it is and the fact that it's a new take on the series, I'd say the story needs to choose one thing to focus on. Right now, the story is all over the place, and that is honestly my main issue with the film. As I've said in other videos, I think the cinematography, production design, and overall look of the film is great. It's actually the best it's ever been in any Death Note live action. So no complaints really on the appearance side of things, but the substance is where it's lacking and needs help. So here's the three different directions I'd argue the story should take. Number 1, being a more heavily focused take on Light vs. L. As I said earlier, I think a god-tier Death Note movie would be just a 3-hour picture by Christopher Nolan all about the rivalry between Light and L. I honestly think that would end up being a masterpiece. I mean, this is the main thing that hooks people on Death Note, so to simply glance over it or treat it as a side story in the movie the way they did was actually a crime. There's too much importance for it to just be an appetizer. This is the main event, so if they weren't gonna go all out, I'd argue they should have just taken out L entirely. But what would they do without L? Well, that leads into my next route. The second being an actual romance between Light and Misa, or in this case, Mia. If you think about it, this is the primary focus of the movie, despite all the other things that it tries to do. If this movie actually just focused on a love story between Light and Mia, then it might not have been that bad. Because like it or not, I thought there were some good things about the dynamic between the two. Seeing Mia take a front seat for some of the action and chaos was kind of a breath of fresh air. And I think Light transforming into the evil, cocky way that he is due to Mia, whether it's to save himself from her controlling him or to impress her, could be an interesting story in itself. I mean, there are so many different ways they could go with it, but Light and Misa from the anime is something I actually wanted more of. Granted, I'd prefer to see if the romance wasn't in high school, but you know, they gotta have something to help speed things up. And the last route I think the story could go down would be a full-on crime investigation unraveling Light as Kira. As I also mentioned earlier, Death Note can be compared to the likes of almost every crime show. Obviously it's a lot better in my opinion, but in terms of translating it into live action, I think there are a ton of crime shows like NCIS that people get addicted to. So why not just throw the story of Death Note in one of them? Make it a longer case, take out L and Misa, and bam, you've got a movie. The chase to uncover Light is also one of the elements that makes Death Note so exhilarating, so making that the focus would definitely work. Also, before I wrap things up, I want to throw in one more suggestion. I think Death Note could also work as a documentary style adaptation. Like, the serial murder killings of Kira, told from L's perspective, or maybe Nier's perspective, detailing the case and killings more in depth, and shrouding Light in mystery, rather than making him the protagonist and giving us his character off the bat. But anyways, those are just a few ways I thought of to fix the tragedy that we were given in 2017 from Netflix. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Long story short, if you want to make a perfect anime live action adaptation, just hire your boy to direct it and be in charge, and I'm saying. But since I'm not at that level of hierarchy yet, if you could do whatever you can to support me until I get to that point, listen to my music, follow me on social media, share the video with a friend, etc., I'd really appreciate it only after you leave a like on the video to help YouTube let other people who might be interested get a chance to see the content, and overall, give more exposure to your boy. And remember to subscribe and hit that bell to stay up to date with all my videos, and stay tuned for more anime live action content. Until then, see you guys in the next one.